Welcome. We are about to unpack one of the most practical and honestly profound chapters in the entire Old Testament. We're going to be exploring what it really means to make a commitment to God and how He, in His wisdom, provided a clear and merciful path for His people to actually honor those commitments.
So, what does happen when you make a promise to God? That's the core question Leviticus 27 gets right into. In a world where words can feel cheap and promises get broken all the time, this chapter gives us a divine framework. It shows us how the people of Israel could formalize their devotion, proving that our words, our intentions, they have real weight and incredible value in God's eyes.
Okay, let's dive in. To really get this chapter, we first have to wrap our minds around the idea of a vow. See, a vow wasn't just, a simple promise. It was a way for a person to sanctify something, to voluntarily set apart a person, an animal, or even property as holy. It was about dedicating it entirely for a sacred purpose.
Now, here's the crucial point. These were not required offerings. This isn't like the tithe. These were deeply personal acts of worship or gratitude or maybe a petition, and they were started entirely by an individual who felt moved to make a special commitment to God. It's really an expression of a heart that's just overflowing with devotion.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. These heartfelt vows were actually given a tangible earthly value. Now, this wasn't about putting a price tag on devotion, not at all. It was about creating a clear, honorable system that reflected just how serious the promise was. It teaches us that our commitments to God are meant to be thoughtful and real, not just some abstract feeling.
So the text lays out this remarkably clear system. You can see it's based on age and gender, and it probably reflected a person's potential for physical labor in that society. It's such a practical application of a spiritual principle. And the so what for us today is realizing that God gives us a framework for how to live out our devotion in the real world. He's actually interested in how our faith takes on a concrete form.
And this verse just beautifully illustrates one of the most incredible themes running all through God's law, His mercy. This system was never meant to be a rigid, crushing burden. No way. It made a special provision for the poor. The priest could adjust the valuation. This made sure that no one, absolutely no one, was ever excluded from making a heartfelt vow to God because of their bank account.
So, let's see how this builds. Because God's wisdom also accounted for the fact that, life happens. Circumstances change. So He provided a way for someone to redeem or buy back what they had dedicated without disrespecting the original vow. This wasn't a loophole, you got to understand. It was a structured path to fulfillment.
This clear process shows us something huge. While a vow was an incredibly serious matter, there was a structured and honorable way to fulfill its obligation differently if needed. It respects both the holiness of the promise and the realities of life. It shows that God's system isn't about trapping people, it's about guiding them in holiness.
This added fifth part, that 20%, is key. It acted kind of like a fee that acknowledged the sacredness of the original promise. It reinforced the idea that a vow to God was not something to be made or unmade lightly. It's a built-in reminder that our promises to God have to be handled with the utmost integrity.
Okay, so then the chapter makes this crucial distinction that really gets to the heart of our relationship with God. It clarifies that you can't make a vow with something that already belongs to Him by divine right. And this teaches us a powerful lesson about ownership and stewardship.
This shows us a really profound principle, right? Some things, like the tithe, are God's from the very beginning. Our role is just to return them faithfully. Vows, on the other hand, are what we choose to give from the portion He's entrusted to us. And understanding that difference, that's key to a mature faith. It's knowing what God requires versus what our hearts are just moved to offer in a joyful response to Him.
All right, now we come to the most solemn category in the entire chapter. This is something fundamentally different from a regular redeemable vow. This is the concept of a devoted thing, or karem in the Hebrew.
This was the absolute highest level of consecration. It was a line that, once it was crossed, could not be undone. To devote something in this way was to acknowledge that it was being handed over to God permanently, completely. It was marked as most holy unto the Lord.
The text itself really emphasizes the absolute finality of this act. Did you catch that? Unlike the other vows, there was no redemption clause here, no buyback option. This sets it apart as this incredibly profound and sobering form of dedication, and it's a powerful reminder of the ultimate sovereignty of God over all things.
So after going through all these detailed instructions, valuations, redemptions, different kinds of promises, what's the ultimate takeaway?
what is God trying to teach us through all this?
See, this is not about a bunch of arbitrary rules. It's a blueprint that reveals the very character of God. He's showing us that our commitments to Him are seen, they are valued, and He takes them seriously. And the beautiful truth here is that this structure isn't restrictive, it's relational. It's the framework for a trustworthy walk with a God who is both holy and merciful.
These principles, they aren't just ancient history. They form a timeless framework for dedication. They teach us that God cares so deeply about the integrity of our words and the intentions of our hearts. He desires our wholehearted devotion, and He provides this clear, gracious path for us to follow in our commitments to Him.
And that really leaves us with this final thought to reflect on. If we were to treat our modern-day promises, the ones we make to God, to our families, and our work, with this same level of sacred intention, seeing them as holy things that are set apart, how might that radically transform not just our own lives, but our witness to a world that is so desperately in need of seeing what faithful commitment actually looks like?